And I got a call back from the doctor, and they said, you're clearly not depressed. You're just sleep deprived, so you're fine. They said, I think if you want to take a low dose of medication, go ahead and do it, but it doesn't work for a month. And I was like, screw that. It doesn't work for a month. There's no way I'll be dead by then, so forget it. I'm not going there. So I just blew it off. But I made an appointment for later that week, and when I stepped up on the scale, I completely fell over and passed out. And several nurses came, and they rushed towards my side, and the clinic was connected to the ER. I was wheeled right down to the ER. I had numerous tests done, and there was nothing wrong with me. Of course, there was nothing wrong with me. They did decide to give me an anti-anxiety pill. I don't know what it was, Xanax perhaps. And I was nursing, and I was really fearful of taking this medication while nursing, so they said to pump and dump. And I hated pumping. And so that caused me more anxiety. So I couldn't sleep, of course, because I'm all worried about pumping, and I hated pumping, and whenever I would pump, I could not get like a dropout. So I told my husband, run to the store, I need a different pump. You need to, buy every kind there is, and we'll have to see which one works, because this isn't working, even though I had, the expensive pump. And so I got more and more anxious about pumping, and I slept less and less. So it was a Saturday night after I had gotten back from the ER, and I called the emergency helpline that I had been given at the hospital. And I got a gentleman on there, and I said, I'm having trouble pumping, and I'm supposed to take this anti-anxiety medication, and it's not really working for me. And what should I do? Because I've tried everything, and I'm feeling worse. And he said, well, I don't know anything about drugs and what you can use with breastfeeding, so go ahead and call your doctor on Monday. And this is when I was already hitting rock bottom. I freaked out. I was like, oh my God, I can't call the doctor on Monday. During this time, a traumatic event happened with my son, pictured here. My dad was babysitting him. I had left the house for a few hours, and I came back, and his eyes were rolled back, he was shaking, he was trembling. He was on heavy doses of medication for his asthma. I was so unclear in my head that I had no idea what I had given him, and I feared that I had overdosed him. And I went into a terrible panic. I called poison control, I called the paramedics, they came, and I was completely a wreck. And then he went from this eyes rolling back to sped up, and he was running and racing around the room, and I was afraid he was going to hurt Emily, and I put Emily up in her crib, and after that, it really set me off. I was like, I'm a terrible mother, I'm going to kill my kids, I overdosed my son, I am not a fit mother, I cannot handle this, I don't know what God was thinking when he gave me these 3 children, but I can't do it. And the paramedics noticed something wrong with me. They said, something seems off. You really must be sleep deprived. Luckily, the woman who delivered my baby, my OBGYN, was also a close personal friend. And I had been communicating with her throughout the week, and she knew that I did not sound like myself at all. And she said, go to the hospital right away. This is an emergency. I'm calling the hospital. I'm going to make sure they admit you, even though you're not having suicidal thoughts at the moment. She said, I'm your OBGYN, and I'm your friend, and you're going to go and get help. And I agreed to it because I was desperate. I needed to do anything I could to get help. And when I went there, I was convinced that if I got a good night's sleep that I would be fine in the morning. I thought I would just be there for a night. I talked to my husband, yeah, I'll pick you up in the morning. And I was like, oh my God, I get to sleep. I don't care about breastfeeding. I let my breast swell up, and I had mastitis too. But I don't care. I just want to sleep. I don't care. You can sleep in a garbage can. I don't care. I just need to sleep. And that hospitalization ended up being a long time. I went from bad to worse while I was in the hospital. I became paranoid. I feared the hospital was drugging me. I started refusing medications because I was so unclear in my head, and I'm a person of control. I'm a person who likes knowledge and likes to know what's going on, and I was just given a all these pills, and I'd never taken pills before. Maybe an allergy pill here and there, but I'd never been on any kind of medication, and I was loaded up with Seroquel about 5 times a day, and I was on 4 or 5 different kinds of antidepressants, antipsychotics, and I was confused, and I couldn't remember even the simplest things. So luckily I had this OBGYN friend, and I said, come with me and meet the psychiatrist. I want to know that I can trust him, because I'm afraid to trust him. I'm afraid to trust anybody. How do I know it's not a conspiracy and they're going to make me worse? And she gave me her blessing, and I went, okay, I'm just going to have faith that this is going to get better. I couldn't shower. I couldn't brush my hair. I couldn't order lunch. I had been in the hospital more than a week before I realized how to circle the menu item for lunch. I didn't know how to get my own medications, so they came and brought them to me. I'm a person who lives day to day by my BlackBerry and appointments, and I'm a business person, and I had no idea how to follow a schedule. I had no idea what was going on in this world. I had to have a nurse give me a shower. I would sit there all day long saying, all I want to do is take a shower, but I don't know how to get up. I felt like I physically couldn't. I was convinced I had gone crazy and I would never recover. And then I found recovery. The first step, are we done at 11:30 here? Okay, I'll speed this up, was cognitive behavioral therapy. And while this may have worked, it was right after I had gotten out of the hospital. And I was not cognitively there. So to try and do cognitive behavioral therapy was awful for me. So I would just pace around the room, and it was overwhelming, and I had sensory overload, and I couldn't process any of it. The other thing that happened was I had given no transitional help. I went home, and I was responsible immediately for taking care of these 3 kids. And that was very overwhelming. I decided I sought out a women's support group instead of cognitive behavioral therapy. But the women in this were not postpartum. They were chronic, lifelong people living with bipolar and were unemployable, on welfare, were suicidal, and it gave me no hope. It went, okay, is this what I am now? And it was very depressing to me. And then I found Rosalind here, her postpartum support group, and it was wonderful because it was the first time that I had ever found other women who were like me. I was convinced that I was abnormal, this is crazy, and I'm the only person this has ever happened to. And then I had some individualized counseling. And I met people like Joan, other wonderful supporters, or survivors. And then I decided to write my story. And I wrote my story because I wanted to heal other people. But I also wanted to let people like you, the people that work with these people every day, know that some things need to change in the way that we diagnose postpartum anxiety and other mood disorders. And I'm sharing my story now in hopes that we can see these changes. And this is my daughter, Emily, happy 1-year-old. Can we evaluate a new mom's mental state after giving birth at the hospital? Had there been any kind of intervention for me at that time, and all of you know from what I said that there's clearly something wrong there, that could have prevented the escalation that it went to, in my case. We really need to reformulate the screenings. I had 3 screenings. No one caught it. No one thought anything was wrong with me. Really, more education on the differences between postpartum anxiety and postpartum depression. And really, start an awareness campaign. Let moms know they are not alone. The support in other moms and that kind of healing was huge to me. And when I was hospitalized, I wasn't with any other postpartum moms. I didn't know this existed. I thought I was the only person in the world this happened to. And to meet other people that have survived it and know has been a wonderful journey. And I am happy to say that I am doing very well now. My daughter is 21 months old, and I still am on Lexapro. I tried going off of that unsuccessfully, but I have decided that's okay. You do what you have to do, and it might be a long journey there. But I'm in recovery. I am recovered, and I'm hoping to help others. Thanks.